Domino's pizza's gonna be better than ever!
Nobody knows like Domino's how you like
more melted cheese, better topping,
tender, tastier crust.
Try a medium with unlimited toppings, now just $9.99. Another $4 more.
You gotta try the cereal. You'll love it.
Oatmeal crisp. Well, it's finally happened.
What? What's happened?
You turned into your mother.
I know it's wholesome, but just taste it. Sweet, crispy flakes topped with an amazing brown sugar and rolled oat crunch.
Looks good.
It's even got almonds.
This is fantastic.
Don't talk with your mouth full. I have turned into my mother.
Channel 5's Keith Murphy, keeping you in touch.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with presidential politics and aid to the former Soviet Union. They were tied together at the White House today. President Bush proposed that the U.S. join the other industrial nations in channeling billions of dollars in aid to Russia and the other former republics, though he agreed there's not a lot of new American money involved. Mr. Bush did say the U.S. must help democracy to take root. The Democratic presidential candidate Governor Clinton delivered a major foreign policy speech today. He wanted to know why it had taken Mr. Bush so long to do something. First from the White House, ABC's Britt Hume.
The president first briefed congressional leaders on his plan to help the former Soviet states at what he called a defining moment in history. But when he came out to explain it later, he and his advisors seemed torn between playing it up and playing it down. First, he played it up.
The stakes are as high for us now as any that we have faced in this century. If this democratic revolution is defeated, it could plunge us into a world more dangerous in some respects than the dark years of the Cold War.
Mr. Bush said the U.S. would participate in a $24 billion effort by the West, $6 billion to stabilize the Russian currency, and $18 billion more, mostly to secure bank loans to the Russian Republic. The U.S. share would be about $6.5 billion. The president insisted he had waited until now to announce this because it had only now been agreed to between the U.S. and its allies. He insisted he had not, as former President Nixon has suggested, been ducking the issue to appease a voting public in no mood to see U.S. money flowing overseas.
So this isn't any Johnny-come-lately thing, and this isn't driven by election year pressures. It's what's right for the United States.
At the same time, though, the president stressed that most of the $24 billion will come from international lending agencies, with the U.S. only putting up a fraction.
About a fifth of it, 20% of it is our share, and there's not a lot of new money.
But after Mr. Bush left, his Secretary of State seemed to say just the opposite.
And we'll have to work out the exact amount for you, but there is substantial new money involved.
In fact, there's about $3 billion in new money yet to be approved by Congress. That's a lot or a little, depending on how you look at it. The best news for the administration may be that despite its seeming uncertainty about how to look at it, those congressional leaders who were here this morning said it looked reasonable to them. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
We'll have a report on Governor Clinton's speech on foreign policy and his day a little later, but first in Moscow. Today, as always, it was a challenge to go shopping. No milk on the shelves today. There was a rumor that gasoline prices were about to go up, and so lines at gas stations were even longer than usual. As ABC's John Donovan reports tonight, Muscovites are grateful for the international promises, but they would like to see some results.
The White House announcement, carried on Moscow television tonight, follows months of quiet complaining by Russian officials that Washington was being stingy with aid. Tonight they say they are deeply satisfied.
Any aid, especially large-scale aid, is highly valued because it helps us stabilize this young Russian democracy.
$1 billion of the aid package helps to meet a key request made by Russian President Boris Yeltsin during his last visit to Washington for a fund to control inflation and increase trade with the outside world by stabilizing the value of the Russian ruble. The fund would work like this. When there are too many rubles in circulation, adding to inflation, the state would get them out of circulation by buying them from the public with dollars from the fund.
This could make the difference between the success and failure of the reforms, which is a big thing for the world.
But many ordinary Russians have lost confidence in promises of help from outside. Do we see the U.S. aid? Asked this car worker at the end of his shift today. Do we feel it? There is some hope here tonight that the other part of the president's package, the part that would pay directly for medicine, food, and expert advice from abroad, will, as one official said, produce quick results to prove to people that the reforms, painful now, will do them some good in the long run. John Donovan, ABC News, Moscow.
When we come back, we'll hear Governor Clinton challenge President Bush on his foreign policy. Also this evening, why so many diets don't seem to work. And on the American agenda tonight, sex education in the age of AIDS.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by the Discover Card.
If you're using a credit card to get a cash advance, you're probably getting soaked. Because ordinary cards charge you interest. Right from day one, which is why you should use the Discover Card. Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll give you cash, interest-free. So you can avoid taking a bath. It pays to discover.
Ford Trucks, the best never ends.
When we made the best-built, best-selling Ford full-size pickup more stylish, we also made it a more comfortable place for people. Why did we make Explorer so spacious? Because that's what people need. Ford redefined the word truck. But we didn't forget who made us #1.
More people are driving the best-built, best-selling American trucks than ever before.
Governor Clinton did something rather unusual in anybody's political campaign this year. He made a speech about foreign policy. Speaking to the Foreign Policy Association in New York, Governor Clinton said President Bush had borrowed some of his ideas about aid to Russia and the other republics, and the governor joked, "I wish I had that kind of influence on his domestic policies." Here's ABC's Chris Bury.
Governor Clinton accused President Bush of moving too slowly on aid to the former Soviet republics. Clinton blamed pressure from Patrick Buchanan.
The present administration has been overly cautious on the issue of aid to Russia, not for policy considerations, but out of political calculation.
In this state, with its high concentration of Jewish voters, Clinton also criticized Bush for favoring Arab nations over Israel in the Middle East peace talks, and for coddling China's rulers despite their record on human rights. The Bush foreign policy, Clinton said, is reactive, rudderless, and erratic.
George Bush has invoked a new world order without enunciating a new American purpose.
For Clinton, the speech was a chance to appear presidential in his grasp of foreign policy. Later, he hinted that Jerry Brown suffers by comparison.
What do you think of Jerry Brown's foreign policy?
I don't know that it exists.
Clinton was so eager to focus attention on today's speech that after it ended, he stayed out of public view. Clinton complains that his message has been lost in the noise of the New York campaign. This morning, for instance, talk show host Phil Donahue pursued Clinton about Jennifer Flowers, his marriage, and marijuana use. The audience clearly resented the line of questioning.
Are you denying these allegations, or are you saying that it's not fair to ask them?
I can't believe you spent half an hour of airtime attacking this man's character. I'm not even a Bill Clinton supporter.
The Clinton campaign took that as an encouraging sign that voters here may be getting fed up with the media's concentration on questions of character. Chris Bury, ABC News, New York.
Governor Clinton picked up another endorsement today from the former President Jimmy Carter. Mr. Carter criticized Governor Brown for running what he called an almost 100% negative campaign. For Mr. Brown, he had nothing to say about foreign policy today. He says the people of New York are more concerned about urban decay. Governor Brown spent the day trying to eat into Mr. Clinton's black support. Here's ABC's Morton Dean.
Brown's strategy is to take Clinton head-on in the battle for black votes. Brown has not had much luck with black voters in this presidential race, Clinton receiving roughly 2/3 of the black vote in the primaries so far. But in Harlem this morning, Brown scored some points with one of the city's most influential ministers.
I've seen Jerry Brown move from place to place, actually touching and acting as if he wanted to embrace the community. That, to me, as far as I've been able to determine, is light years different from Bill Clinton.
In person and in commercials, Brown has been attacking Clinton for playing golf at a whites-only country club in Arkansas.
Now that's slick. but we want real change.
And at every opportunity, Brown says he would choose Jesse Jackson as a running mate.
And I can't think of a better ally standing together with me and with you.
While Jackson has endorsed no one, he and Brown did link up today as part of a voter registration drive. It's just the kind of picture Brown wants black voters to see. Jackson, while not endorsing Brown, said for the first time that he would love to be the Democrats' vice presidential nominee, no matter who heads the ticket.
If the nominee of our party were to seek my support as a partner, the convention were to ratify it, I would be honored to serve.
Brown seems to have made some gains from all this. Brown plans to spend more time in New York's black communities, trying to exploit Bill Clinton's admitted mistake on the golf course. Morton Dean, ABC News, New York.
Some of the other international news today from the State Department, the results of an internal investigation that suggests a cover-up within the department regarding Israel. The State Department's auditors have found that some State Department officials received reports as far back as 1983 that Israel was illegally selling American military technology to other countries. Reports those officials apparently never followed up on and never informed the Congress about, as they are required to do. In the Middle East today, Israeli soldiers fired into a crowd of Palestinians. 4 Palestinians were killed. More than 50 others were wounded. UN officials say it began when some Palestinian men threw firebombs at the Israeli soldiers. The Israelis chased them into a crowded marketplace and opened fire, apparently when a crowd of bystanders surrounded their jeep. We'll be back in just a moment.
On November 11th, 1940, a legend was born in Toledo, Ohio. Jeep. Jeep earned its stripes before most of us were out of knickers. Tough, unstoppable, go anywhere, get the job done. But I'll lay odds, a lot of people don't know that Jeep is part of Chrysler. So now it's our job to keep the legend alive. And this is where we'll do it. Our new billion-dollar assembly plant in Detroit, Michigan. Before the first Jeep came down the line, our workers had the most intensive quality training in the history of Chrysler. And this is a new Jeep Grand Cherokee, a lot more room inside and the only sport utility with 4-wheel analog brakes and a driver's airbag standard. Every inch a Jeep. To some people, Jeep is for climbing to the top of the world or just going out on the town. To us, Jeep is what all 4-wheel drives are measured against. Always will be. Hey, in this business, you lead, follow, or get out of the way.
I just can't stand this anymore. How am I supposed to fall asleep with this pain? I could take one of those nighttime pain relievers with a sleep ingredient. But all I really need is Advil to help stop the pain that's keeping me up. Just Advil. That's all I want. Without the extra sleep ingredient, I don't want. Advil is so effective, it relieves the pain, so I can get to sleep.
Discover the relief of Advil at bedtime. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
In the other news today, there was bad news for dieters, though not a great surprise to many. A panel of government doctors has been looking at diets and weight loss programs and has confirmed your worst suspicions. Most diets, even when they do work, don't work for very long. Here's ABC's Bettina Gregory.
The panel concluded as many as 1 in 3 Americans is overweight, and 95% of those who lose weight on any sort of program regain it within 3 years.
Most people who achieve weight loss with any of these programs regain their weight.
So what's the best strategy for losing weight and keeping it off? The panel said a combination of dieting, exercise, and a change in the behavior that put the weight on in the first place. Americans spend more than $30 billion a year on diet clinics, drugs, and products. Some companies claim they will not only help people get weight off quickly, but maintain that weight loss. The panel refused to criticize diet companies for lack of data on weight loss, but they were skeptical people on commercial programs could maintain their weight loss.
Look at the very best programs, which we were able to look at during this conference. And in the very best programs, maintenance of weight loss was very poor.
The panel urged dieters to lose weight slowly, to set realistic goals, and not try to look like Hollywood stars or high fashion models. The panel also concluded that being overweight is not simply a failure of willpower. Genetics and metabolism also play a role. But their message is those who are overweight must accept the fact they have a chronic condition, one they'll have to fight every day of their lives. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
There has been major news made today in the aviation industry. After enormous pressure by the United States, the European community has agreed to limit the support it gives to the European commercial jet, the Airbus. Boeing and McDonnell Douglas had both charged that the subsidies gave Airbus an unfair economic advantage, which they believed, or at least threatened, might ruin the American aircraft industry. The Fortune 500 companies have had a terrible year. Fortune magazine's new list shows their combined profits down 41%. 103 of the 500 companies actually lost money in 1991. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 13 points to close at 32.49, and the trading was heavy. Sports news. The players of the National Hockey League have gone on strike, their first since the league was born 75 years ago. Hockey players, on average, make a lot less than their colleagues in baseball, basketball, and football, and hockey's owners are trying to make sure it stays that way. Here's ABC's Dick Schaap.
Nobody likes hockey. They love it, or they ignore it. The people who love hockey hate what happened today. The strike threatens to terminate the season a week before the playoffs that determine who wins the Stanley Cup, the NHL's championship trophy.
They decide to strike at this critical time, I think, is a slap to the fans.
The timing is particularly frustrating to fans of the New York Rangers, who, with the best record in the NHL this season, are hoping to win the Cup for the first time in 52 years.
They should be here for us. Why should they go on strike? Because we're the ones paying their wages.
Hockey can hardly afford to alienate any of its fans, except by expanding to San Jose this season. The NHL has done little in recent years to win new followers. For example, the NHL no longer has a network TV contract in the U.S. The NHL wasted the coverage the sport received during the Olympics. Canadian star Eric Lindros still has not signed an NHL contract. The NHL permits flailing fists to be the symbol of its sport instead of Wayne Gretzky's grace. And NHL President John Ziegler, like his league's marketing program, fluctuates between ineffective and invisible. The owners and players are squabbling now over a variety of issues, from dividing the income from hockey cards to granting a form of free agency. But the real issue is that the owners are willing to risk losing the profitable playoffs in the hope they can break the union and thus avoid the soaring salary scale of other sports. A season without a Stanley Cup champion could test the affection of even the people who love hockey. Dick Schaap, ABC News.
Other news, researchers at the University of Toronto say they've discovered what may be the largest living organism in the world. It's an enormous fungus, most of it underground, still growing in the middle of a northern Michigan forest. It is bigger than 20 football fields. It has an estimated weight of more than 10 tons and is at least 1,500 years old. When we come back, the American agenda, teaching children about sex in the age of AIDS.
Royal Caribbean, turquoise seas surround you, gentle breezes come to play. Our Caribbean calls you, where your cares just melt away.
Outstanding service. One reason we're the world's largest cruise line. Royal Caribbean, the grand resorts of the seven seas.
Royal Caribbean.
Hey, check it out. Check it out. It's starting to snow.
Besides a powerful V6 engine and a gripping new suspension, the Isuzu Trooper has been thoughtfully redesigned.
Let me see that hand.
To include a tiny little knob.
We're four-wheeling now, buddy.
To make everything right in the world again.
I need a laxative that can work dependably.
Doxidan can.
But can it be gentle?
Doxidan can. Doxidan works dependably overnight with a special ingredient for gentle relief.
Dependable, yes. Gentle, yes.
Doxidan can.
I was tossing and turning.
In medical tests, people fell asleep faster and slept better with Unisom than without.
Now I'm sleeping and sleeping.
Unisom for faster, better sleep.
Your breakfast, sir. This new Kellogg's Frosted Bran is quite sensible. crispy flakes with whole wheat and bran, lightly frosted for a taste. A taste that's delicious! I love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I love it! And new Kellogg's Frosted Bran has less sugar than you'd imagine, but the taste, it's out of...
We've got to stop serving this. New Kellogg's Frosted Bran, wildly delicious, sensibly good.
We've put sex education on the American agenda this evening. No one knows better than a parent how potentially dangerous a time this is for children, reaching the age when they may become sexually active. For this is, as we all know, the age of AIDS and a host of other sexually transmitted diseases that didn't exist a generation ago. It all presents an enormous challenge for sex educators. What do you teach children about sex these days? Our agenda reporter is Karen Burns.
So today's homework assignment, this is shopping information form, and what I want you to do is to go into a store that would carry birth control.
This is homework in the age of AIDS, sex education in the 90s.
This is it?
I don't think this
Where are they? What should we ask? Like, where are your birth control?
Yeah, ask them where their contraceptives.
All right, you ask.
Okay.
Dylan, Zach, and Heather have been assigned by their teacher to research the cost and availability of condoms and other birth control devices.
Chic Alite. Wow.
Okay, I don't think it has non-oxynol 9 because it doesn't say.
Yeah.
The curriculum is called Reducing the Risk. It stresses abstinence.
This feels good, but let's not have sex now.
But it also teaches birth control and protection against disease. The program is explicit.
A sponge is a combination of a barrier method and a spermicide. So it'll reduce the chance of getting AIDS, but it doesn't eliminate it.
I think the school should definitely talk about it because it's happening and it is going on. And it may make it a lot safer for people who don't know about these things.
Have you heard of gonorrhea? Have you heard of chlamydia?
Bonnie Park's sex respect class uses another approach. Fear is the teacher.
Have you heard of genital warts?
Abstinence is the only message.
If you stop at the lips and save sex for marriage, then you're not going to have to worry about getting any of these diseases.
Sex Respect is a federally funded program being taught in 1,500 schools nationwide. Teenagers are told there is no safe sex outside of marriage. They are not taught contraception. Instead, they are taught slogans like control your urgin, be a virgin, and pet your dog, not your date.
I mean, I don't want to disappoint her because, like, she's trying to teach us so hard all this stuff. I mean, it's working, too. It's a great teacher.
But
I mean, I don't think you should say that you're not going to have sex because you don't know. Anything could happen.
These students took Sex Respect a year ago.
Do you think you'll be able to stay a virgin till you're married?
I think I'll be able to.
Do you know a lot about birth control in case you've changed your mind?
Not at all. I know a lot about sexually transmitted diseases, but nothing about birth control.
How about you, Katie?
Well, I don't really know that much about it either.
No matter how sex education is taught, there can be little debate about the facts. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 40% of 9th graders have sex. By 12th grade, 72% have sex. What makes those figures so frightening is this. The number of cases of teens with syphilis has doubled in the last 5 years. The number of cases of teens with AIDS has grown by 40% in the last year. The real question here is whether knowledge helps teens abstain from sex or encourages them to have it.
It is immoral to say to the young people of America, just say no or die. You have to protect your life.
I don't feel it's protecting them. I feel it's encouraging them to be sexually irresponsible.
Both sides say teenagers are responding to their programs. But a study the CDC found scientifically sound was that of Reducing the Risk, the program which teaches abstinence and contraception. The results? 24% of teens delayed sexual intercourse. Of those who were sexually active, nearly half began to use protection.
Everybody falls in love when they're in high school.
A key part of the curriculum, a homework assignment, is talking to parents. 60% of teens in the program did that, and almost half said the program made it easier. Experts say children respond best to parents.
Do you think someone 14 who's in love should have sex with someone else, with their partner at that age, even if they use safe sex?
I guess not. But I mean, as long as they don't get pregnant, I mean, that's the only thing they'd have to worry about.
Well, they could worry about dying.
Karen Burns, ABC News, Santa Cruz, California.
We'll be back in just a moment.
I wasn't due for another 2 weeks. Suddenly there I was, having a cesarean. David was wonderful. And when it was all over, I had this perfect little person. And a lot of pain. Later I was kind of surprised when the doctor gave me Tylenol, with all the other choices they have, but the Tylenol made me feel better, so I could put my mind on more important things.
Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
We just put 70,000 miles on a Plymouth Acclaim and a Dodge Spirit, the lowest priced 6-passenger cars in America. Then we asked 200 drivers to compare them with this new Honda Accord for comfort, performance, and overall superiority. 117 out of 200 preferred the Acclaim and Spirit overall. We were blown away by the results, and so was the Accord.
Now, get $1,000 cash back on Plymouth Acclaim and Dodge Spirit.
What a feeling, feeling fresh.
Fixodent Fresh has a crisp, clean feeling and a stronger hold than any other cream adhesive. A fresh feeling and stronger hold are two great reasons to Fixodent and forget it.
I live in the country, where everything tastes a little sweeter and a little fresher. Maybe that's what I like best about these Sunsweet pitted prunes. I can taste all that goodness in Sunsweet.
Tonight on Nightline with Ted Koppel. It seems like democracy's 11th hour in Russia. President Bush is promising aid, but can the Russians hold on? Tonight.
Finally from us this evening, going fishing. Those of you who do know the cliches, ancient and honorable pastime, good way to relax. Most of the time, the trouble is there are no guarantees the fish will cooperate until, American ingenuity. Here's ABC's Brian Rooney.
Many Americans might remember going down to the fishing hole with Dad and spending the day trying to catch trout. Now there's Fishin' Buddies Bay, which might do for fishing what McDonald's did for the hamburger.
If a guest has to wait longer than 5 to 6 seconds before the fish steals their bait, then it's too long.
Fishin' Buddies Bay in Vacaville, California is a man-made pool stocked with trout, catfish, and sturgeon. No charge for the pole and bait. You pay just for what you catch. $4.40 a pound.
$5.76.
This is fishing for the clean hands camper. No bait box, no bug bites, only a pole and a fish just about guaranteed. Drop your hook in the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The customers pose with their catch as proud as if they had spent a day on the ocean to get it.
My husband will sit all day out in the bay, but not me. This is my type of fishing. I'll be back.
This man had caught just one legal-sized sturgeon in 13 years. He caught a beauty here in just seconds.
Right, he caught one.
It's not a sure thing. We do have people that come in here and they can't catch a fish if their life depended on it.
For anglers who can't even catch a fish in a big barrel, Fishin' Buddy will put your sturgeon in a harness.
Ready to be hooked up to a line and brought up.
Is that really fishing?
Certainly it's fishing. They have to pick the fish.
Not only that, they have to take it all the way to the car and drive it home. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Vacaville, California.
And that's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Wednesday, young Indy goes to war in Africa.
Expedition to cross the Congo?
And has to grow up in a hurry.
I'm depending on you.
I won't let you down.
As he disobeys orders to save his troops. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
I'll have you before firing squad.
Wednesday.
Fact. Ford will introduce its 93 Escort early this year, so your Ford dealer is clearing out all 92 Escorts. Fact. All 92s must go before the 93s arrive. Fact. Get 2.9% financing on every 92 Escort in stock. 2.9 for 48 months. Back. It's the best time to save on America.